Okay, let's see what we need to do here. I'm going to be showing you my computer. My computer does not have a webcam, so whatever I want to do for that is not possible. But I can do this presentation thing. And so I'm just going to show you my screen. That seems to work better than doing it one window at a time. So right now you should be seeing me looking at the Google Meet screen. So let's get into the productivity programs folder and Excel. Let's see if we can pick up where we left off. Okay, everybody see the Excel spreadsheet?
Yes.
Well, this is a little more hopeful than the last class I had. Let me show you a few things about this. We have a list of who's here that up in the upper right hand corner of your window, and we have this chat thing. So if you want to ask a question or talk to somebody, you can use the chat window here so that you can ask questions and so forth without actually going on mic and interrupting whatever's happening. A lot of times that works, a lot of times it doesn't, because when I'm in the middle of a presentation, as you may have noticed, I sometimes don't, I'm just not aware of things that are happening around me. So you could put something on the chat, I should be watching it and I should be responding, but I might not. And if that is the case, then you are perfectly welcome to turn on your mic and say, hey, I've got a question, okay? Or some other comment, or like students in my last class were trying to tell me that they couldn't see what I was doing. So, there's all kinds of things that we need to get used to for this new way of doing things. But as I said, overall, it shouldn't really be that much different from what we would be doing if we were all in class together, except that we're not all in class together. And there's at the moment only, we had somebody else join, I think. Oh, no, it's just my presentation is joined. Okay, so I'm going to leave the chat window up and put the spreadsheet back in where it was. There's a whole bunch of other things that I should be talking to you about. You want to look at Blackboard for this class because things have changed. Not a whole lot. I mean, just added some things to it. But why don't I just go ahead and look at that now. and make sure I'm in the right class. Although for this purpose, it won't make a whole lot of difference. Okay. If this is working right, then you should be able to just click on the title of this Google Class Meet in Blackboard, and it should take you right to the class. Because it'll be the same meeting every class period for every week that we have left. It looks like we're going to be doing this for the remainder of the semester. So we need to get tooled up to be able to handle that. I have also added a discussion board for just general stuff. It's not a graded thing. It's just you don't have to do anything with it if you don't want to. But it has doesn't have anything in it. And I'm going to subscribe to it myself. And hopefully that will notify me some way that somebody has posted something. Okay, for the rest, we have the, if you come into the class page on Blackboard, the first thing it's going to show is the announcements. Because I've changed that so it doesn't go into the syllabus page, it's going to go to the announcements page first. So if there's anything going on, I will post something in the announcements so that you will catch it the first time you look at Blackboard. On the syllabus page, we have a new assignment schedule, so you can click on that link there, and we will show a few adjustments. Okay, as in today we are continuing Excel. That will be today and Wednesday, and the test will be on Friday. That's the first time it will be visible to you, but since we can't meet and there's no effective way to proctor the test, then it will be available to you to do with as ever you're able to manage. If you don't get 100% on it, I would be surprised and somewhat dismayed. So the tests are going to turn into sort of like just a kind of another kind of assignment, because that's the best we can do at the moment. I'm not exactly thoroughly happy with that, but that's what we have to do because that's what we have to do. Okay, for course content, it's going to be essentially the same as it was, and we're down here in the productivity programs, assignment 1, and we're doing this Excel spreadsheet. Okay, it looks like we have got one set of totals up here. So we'll finish that off. If you have any questions or any other thing that you want to ask about, feel free anytime. One other thing I need to mention is that I will be in the virtual Academic Success Center on Tuesday, tomorrow, from 8 to 2. If you have any questions or problems you need to talk to me about, there is a virtual computer lab that I will be in tomorrow from, as I said, 8 to 2. Let me just interrupt our Excel thing one more time here and show you how to get into that. Okay, if you go to the MyJeffco homepage, there is a tab there for online support. You click that button and you will get a couple of lab buttons and some other stuff. Either of these lab buttons will work. They both go to the same place. And when you get to the Academic Success Center page, you can come down to the Computer Lab link. And that will give you all of the computer lab monitors, among whom I am one. Tuesday from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. I will be in the Google Meeting room from 8 to 2, so you can just click on this link. There's my name on it, and that will take you into the Google Meet for the computer lab, and we can converse, and you can ask questions. We can show you how to do things or answer other questions that you might have.
You need to get dressed. Don't turn it on till you get dressed.
Outside of class.
And
Okay.
you can't have
Any questions about that? Let me find my other. All right. And once again, we come back to Excel, which eventually I will get into. Any questions so far? This is really not going to be much different from the classes that we have had so far, except for the tests and the obvious difference that we're not all together in one place, but we're sort of in a virtual space together anyway. Except we got a whole bunch of people that didn't show up. Okay, let's see where we were on this. We want to get totals for all this. Okay, did I show you the brute force and awkwardness method of getting totals? We can just start with the formula with the equal sign as always, and then you can just add up anything you want to by clicking on the cell that you want to add and hitting a plus sign, and the next cell and another plus sign, and so on.
And then you can use my watering can, fill it, and then water it.
And that will give you the total. That's the simple and somewhat more difficult way to do things. That also gives you some problems, because if, for instance, you had to add a line to your data in here, then it would not be included in your totals unless you went in and changed the formula for the totals. So this is not really the best way to do totals. The best way we showed you last time is to use the sum button up here on the ribbon, and that will add up everything automatically for you. providing that Excel guesses the right cells that you want to add. Sometimes it doesn't. For instance, on this particular one, we didn't want to include last week's total, so we had to make an adjustment there and change that, which is easy to do. And just to remind you, because it can't be too often stated, I'll show you how to do that. Let's go ahead and redo this one. Okay, so notice Excel thinks that maybe we want to add up this column, which we don't. So we easily can change its mind by just selecting the cells that we want. Notice that we don't want to include last week. So that gives us a total for this week. Notice up here with this little green triangle in the cell. Well, okay, that is an indication that Excel thinks there's an error here. So you can go to the little caution sign here and drop that down. And it is complaining about the formula omitting adjacent cells. That's because we didn't include last week, which we don't want to. So this is not an error. Excel thinks it's a little unusual, so it flags it. So all we have to do is say ignore the error. The little green triangle goes away, and everything is fine. Now for our sum down here, there is another way of doing these totals. We can take the whole block of numbers that we want to accumulate, and when you select everything that's included here, which we want to get the sum for the whole row, okay? We do this quick analysis button. That gives us a bunch of stuff that we can do, and what we want is totals, so we click on totals, and we want, notice the sum for the column totals is that blue shading at the bottom. If we wanted to sum up the rows, then we would go over here to this one. But what we want is this one. So we just click on that and replace our total that we had. And it's actually going to be the same thing that was there before. And now it has also given us bold type in all of our totals. Not sure I want that. I've got other ideas about formatting this thing, so I'm just going to select the whole thing and change it to not bold. Now, if you'll notice, the bold button is already not bold, probably because cell A1 up here is not bold. What is the deal here? Well, what you have to do is first bold everything. Okay, and then click on the bold button again to turn it all off. This is pretty normal for what you have to do if you're trying to format something that has got mixed formats already. Probably going to have to click on something twice. First time to turn it all into something, and then the next time to turn it all into what you don't want, or what you want it to not be. Okay, that gives us totals. let's see what happened to our instructions. Okay, so we have found the sum for all columns and rows on the page. So now it says somewhere demonstrate an average, minimum, and maximum of rows or columns.
Do you have any charts, Ben?
Now to do this, we don't need to do more than actually one cell for each one formula for each one of them, because it just says somewhere an average, a minimum, and a maximum. So we need an average and a minimum and a maximum, but we don't need to have a whole bunch of them. One is enough to fulfill the requirements. So let's go to the last week's totals here, and there's an average. Okay, so that's the first thing it wants. So we'll put the average in. So we can go up to our summation button again, and instead of clicking on the main icon here, we'll use the drop down because this is a split button. And what we want is the average. So we click on average, and it will average this whole thing. Well, that's not what we want, because you don't want to include the total in the average. So what we do to adjust that, now see, when you click on that sum button up here or anything underneath there, you do not want to get into that cell and mess with anything until you're done. In fact, you don't even have to do that. You just select the cells. It's all set up. Okay, you just select the cells that you want to actually be included in the average. So that would be from there to there. You just select those. And you can do this as many times as you want. You can say, okay, maybe you only want to see what was the total for beverages, or the average beverage cost. You could just do those. So this is pretty easy to manipulate. Okay, so we want everything up to the totals, and then you just hit the enter key, and that gives you your number. Now we want a minimum. That happens to be in the list as well, so we can go to the summation button and find min, and that will give us, again, it does the minimum of the whole thing, including the total, which that doesn't actually make any difference because everything is obviously going to be less than the total. So the total will automatically be excluded, but just to be tidy, let's just select the items that we actually want to include. And then we have maximum, so we can go up here and get the max formula. And notice, see, it's just going to give you the maximum of the minimum, so it's not going to do you any good at all. So we just need to go back and select the same cells that we had before. Okay, that will do you an average, a minimum, and a maximum. And for your own project, that's all you have to do is just, and you get full points for it. But I want to show you this. Once you have that, you can autofill all three of those rows at the same time. So that's a quick way to generate a whole lot of data all at once. And that's what you need to do for the assignment. You need to do more for the test. So I'm going to go ahead and add all of the stuff that is here for the test. I'll just add that to the demonstration. If you want to add those things to your assignment, you're perfectly welcome to. There's not any problem with it. You won't get any extra credit for it, nor will it be counted off. Anything else you want to put in there that's not in the requirements, you're perfectly welcome to do so. As long as you meet the requirements, you get full credit. Okay, so let's see what else we need to do here. We need to change font sizes. Okay. So I generally want to do that to the total, or to the title up here, the headings. There are several ways to change font sizes directly. The most direct one is just to come up here to the font sizing box and type in the number of the size font that you want, and bingo, there it is. If you don't know what size you want, then you have a couple of options. One of them is you can go drop this down and it'll give you a bunch of sample sizes, and you can just kind of point down through the list, and it has this live preview feature where it shows you what it looks like without actually changing anything. So you could just pick a number off the chart here, and that would fulfill that requirement. Another way you can do this is with these two buttons, the big A and the little a. They will increase the font size or decrease the font size depending on which way you want to go. So if you click on the button, notice it's 18 now, it goes to 20. Why does it go to 20 instead of 19? That's because 20 is the next number in the list. So these two buttons are tied into this list, and it just bounces down through the list one item at a time. So notice there it went from 28 to 36. If you go to decreasing the font size, it'll go from 36 to 28. If you want, instead of 24, if you want 25, you can again go back in here and just type in the number, and it does it. Okay, what I like to do, there's another way of doing this. Cell styles, over here in the styles group, there's a button for cell styles. Okay, that will give you a whole bunch of choices of how to format a cell or a group of cells. And again, this also has the live preview, so you can see how it looks before you actually do anything to it. Okay. What we want to do, let's use the title style here. By the way, what a style is a collection of formats. So you can actually create your own styles. If you go down here to where it says New Cell Style, this is something you can play with. I'm not going to go into it here, but you can create a style for yourself that you can apply to things then with a one-button click, just like you do these other styles. Okay, so I'm going to make this one the title style. And then for the second row, we'll do heading 3 here. So that has bold, font change size, underline, all this collection of all these formatting things in one spot. Okay, that is that will also meet the requirement for changing font sizes. Because we changed the font size. If you apply some kind of formatting that doesn't change the font size, then you don't get the points for that. All right, now we need to construct a formula for a subtraction. So what we're going to do is we're going to calculate the difference between last week's total and this week's total. So we're going to be optimistic and we'll call it increase, even if it isn't. At this point, they haven't been battered by the coronavirus, so it probably, it could likely be an increase. Otherwise, if we were taking account of the epidemic, it's probably going to be a decrease. Notice that increase is bold, like the rest of the items in the heading, because we didn't select these headings individually to apply the bolding. We selected the whole row. So all of the cells in this row are going to be bold. Anything you type into them is already going to be bold. And now we need a difference. That is easily done. We can hit the equal sign, and we say we want to take our total for this week, and we're going to subtract, so we put a minus sign in there. Total for last week, and there it is. If we want to do that for all of the rows, which we should and will, then we can autofill that. And that's a whole lot easier than typing that subtraction formula in 15 times, or however many there are here. That's 10 of them, I guess. 11 now. Okay. That one is easy. The only thing that people have trouble with subtraction is not knowing which number to put in first. I know that maybe that sounds silly to you, but that is a real problem for some people. My brother and my sister-in-law and my ex-wife are all teachers, and and I am not. I have never taken a single education course in my life. Maybe it shows, but at any rate, I have learned a few things from them, and one of them is that if you don't get the math concepts between the third and the fifth grade, then there's a good chance you never will get them, because it's a brain development thing. When you're in that third to fifth grade age range, your brain is in this development stage where it can pick up math stuff, and you will remember it and you will comprehend it and you will be okay with it. If you don't get it at that point in time, then it's probable that you never will. So people have trouble with the simple subtraction, not knowing which number to put in first, and it's sad, but it is perfectly understandable, and it's not something you can help unless you devote some time to learning the rules and figuring out, how to apply the rules pretty rigidly. There's not any comprehension involved. It's just that you know how to do it because you follow the procedure that you have learned. So there's our increases. Let's see. Now we need to construct a formula to calculate a percentage from a part and a total. Now that sounds like it's a really complicated thing. At least to some people it is difficult. Okay, but we'll put another title up here. And what we want is to take the total for the week and compare that to the total of all the categories for the week. So get a percentage of how much the dining room food is of the total sales for the week. It's really easy to do. You just type in your equal sign as usual, take the total, and a slash for the division, and get the total of all the categories. And that gives you a fraction. What we want is a percentage, which is essentially anything, something divided by 100. So we need to multiply it by 100 to get what the percentage looks like. We have a percent format up here that will do this all for us. So we just click the button and we get 22%. And if we want a little more accuracy, we can add a decimal to it, or however many we want. And now, not when we do the autofill, not only will it autofill the formula, it will autofill the format as well. But there is a small problem with that. When we autofill this formula, we get a whole bunch of errors. And why is that? Well, let's look at C. Let's take the first one. It's J5 divided by J15. Well, there's J5 right there. And there's J15, which nets out to 0. So you got a division by 0 error. By the way, in case you weren't aware, that's not possible. You cannot divide anything by 0. Doesn't work. Okay, so why did this happen? Well, let's look at the formula. We have J5. What do we have up here? We've got J4 through J14, which is what we want. Okay, but if we look at the rest of the things that we did with the autofill, we've got J5 and J15, J6 and J16, J7, J17, J8, J18, J9 and J19, whatever. Okay, so when we do this autofill, it changes the cell references. And that is normal. Anytime you do a copy and paste it someplace else, if you have any cell references like these, it will change them. And what does it change them to? Well, let's just take a look. If we click in here, we can see what it's doing. J9 and J19. Oops. I mess with that. Okay. So if you're looking closely, you can see that these cells are in the same relative position with this cell as this first cell was. If we double click here and get the picture, see the cells are in the same relative position. All the way down, they're in the same relative position, which means that this cell gets moved down to the next empty cell, which gives us the div 0 error. Then it takes up these items and divides by those instead of this. and then it divides by more zeros down here. Okay, so that stuff doesn't work. Can't do that. So what do? Well, that just happens to correspond to the next item on our list of requirements, which is construct an absolute reference. And it is 2 minutes till quitting time, and so I'm not going to go into that. So we will cover that on Wednesday, and I'll show you how to fix this problem, basically by using an absolute reference. Okay. Any questions? Everybody still with me?
Yeah, I don't have any questions.
Okay. We will see you all on Wednesday then.
Thank you.